Let's break down what just happened. We've got media journalist Brian Stelter, who's written a book about Fox News and Donald Trump, and our own Washington correspondent, Katie Simpson. Brian, I'll start with you. These documents that were in this case show very clearly Fox's own hosts and executives knew they were peddling lies. Do you think this settlement changes anything about the likelihood of that happening again?
I don't think it changes what happens on the air on Fox, but I think it dramatically changes what happens off the air in the outside world. As you mentioned, I wrote a book about Fox several years ago. I was hearing from anonymous sources about what happened at the network, but now it's all on the record. It is extraordinary to have seen all these revelations in the past few months. And even though this case is now settled, all of that information about Fox's unethical practices is now out in the public domain. So on the outside, off the air, this has had huge consequences. But on the air, on Fox, no. I don't think there's going to be any more pressure to stick to the facts and give up on the fictions. Fox continually, day in, day out, promotes a narrative about rage and resentment, an anti-Democrat, anti-Biden narrative, and that's not going to change.
Katie, Fox obviously has deep pockets, could settle something like this. What does it do to others who don't have those kind of spending habits in terms of their spreading of misinformation?
Well, they have to sort of be careful. You know, it sort of sends the message to the people who profit from spreading misinformation that, listen, if you go after the wrong company and they have deep pockets and can hire the best lawyers in the country, look out, you could be on the hook there. But in terms of things changing, it doesn't really suggest to me that we're going to see much change, because these lawsuits, these massive lawsuits with these big settlements, they're few and far between. We saw last summer Alex Jones, who was spreading lies about the families who lost children at Sandy Hook. He's facing more than $1 billion in damages he's being forced to pay. But these big settlements, these big moments, they're few and far between, although it's the start of some pushback. And we're not necessarily going to see big picture change here.
Brian, I look at some of the statements that came from Fox yesterday. Very little coverage on their own network of this settlement. But in a press release, they said that this speaks to Fox's high journalistic standards. When you read that, what did you think?
What I thought to myself was that they are trying to turn lemons into lemonade. This was one of the most embarrassing episodes in Fox News history. This was a painful amount of money for Rupert Murdoch to part with. Yes, he's a billionaire, but this was still a grueling experience for him. And now Fox has to face other lawsuits like the Smartmatic case, so even more money will likely be paid out. Amid all that, Fox is trying to celebrate its journalism, but Fox's newsroom has been shrinking over the years as more and more journalists feel squeezed out. The opinion hosts, the pro-Trump stars, have been taking over more and more time and airwaves and attention. And here's the thing. Now that this case has been settled, Fox might have to be a little bit more careful talking about voter fraud conspiracy theories. But Donald Trump is booked for an interview on Fox next week. So, who knows what he might say out loud about voter fraud as he continues to advance the big lie of 2020. And that's why this case matters. As you all were talking about disinformation, Trump is still spreading that disinformation across the U.S. And most Americans don't believe it, but there are some who do. And that's why this case matters, I think, in the future.
Yeah, Katie, Brian's written, of course, on this symbiotic relationship between Fox and Trump. You've reported on it. I mean, it was just a few days ago that Tucker Carlson, a guy who Documents show was basically slamming the former president, has him on his own show, and they're back buddy-buddy.
Well, there's something to be said about how Fox News has covered this trial, and it plays into sort of the point you made right there. Fox, the network, has given very little coverage to the trial itself and the settlement, and very little coverage online. What we know about Fox viewers is that they're very, very loyal. It is the #1 cable news network in the United States. And perhaps these viewers, because they are so loyal to Fox and other right-wing news outlets, if they're not exposed to the truth here, how much do they know about this? Do they know what the stars of the show were saying about Donald Trump when they have him back on the programs? And that is a big question that comes out of this. Because the settlement did not require Fox to make any sort of on-air apology, a significant on-air apology, how do we know that the people that only get their news from these right-wing news sources really understand the reality of the situation?
So, Brian, let me go back to something we heard from one of the lawyers for Dominion. This was a good day for democracy. Do you believe that?
I do think it was a good day for democracy because the judge in this case confirmed that the lies about Dominion were lies. He criticized the Fox lawyers for some of the conduct of the network. There was a financial accounting, even though the money is only going to go to Dominion and not going to go to other places. So this was a moment to confirm what was true and what was not true about the 2020 election. And that may make some people think twice about lying in the future. But this broader problem about disinformation is something we all have to grapple with, no matter where we are. In the last 20 years, thanks to the computers and phones in our pockets, we're all able to be members of the media now. We're all able to contribute journalism, but we're also all able to lie at scale on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. And frankly, the laws in the United States have not caught up with that change in the media. So I'm not here to say what the law should be, whether the standard should be higher or lower, but Fox is operating in an environment that could not have been conceived of 50, 60, 70 years ago when these current rules and laws were adopted. And that's a really interesting challenge going forward as we see candidates like Donald Trump continue to take advantage of the media to spread misinformation.
Katie, Brian, some good insights there. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.